What's up, everybody? In today's video, we are doing probably one of my favorite videos I do every year, all year, and it is March Madness bracket. We are going to be predicting every single matchup for the March Madness shenanigans, and we're going to see, man. We are going to see who I have winning, who I have going through each round. Every single time I do this, I'm usually, within top 90%. Right, I'm usually top 10% on all the brackets, right? Like if there's 100 people in a bracket, I'm usually within the top 10, maybe top 15. I'm pretty good at, guessing or somewhat analytically choosing the best team for each of these March Madness brackets. So, we're going to go through all these matchups. Selection Sunday ended a couple hours ago. So we're going to try and get this video out as quickly as I can. The women's bracket just finished literally about 5 minutes ago as I'm recording this video right now. So I will do my women's bracket video as soon as I get done with this. All right, so we're going to start off here with the very first matchup. He's been the number one seed Duke versus the number 16 seed Siena. I'm going to go with Siena. I'm joking. I'm going with Duke. I mean, come on now. What world do you think number 16 Siena? Duke is probably most people's favorites to make the Final Four, even probably make the national championship. Duke is just too much of a team. They have too much talent, too much weapons on their team to not at least make the Elite Eight Final Four. That's my bold prediction. Duke, probably one of the strongest, one of those lethal teams in terms of overall roster talent. You can say Arizona is up there as well, but I think Arizona is a little bit more of a complete team in terms of how they've been able to put games together. We have the number 8 Ohio State going to be taking on number 9 TCU. I think this is going to be an unbelievable matchup. I think it's like a 2.5 point spread. Usually the AV9 matchups are always within 2.5 points, 3 points. It's usually always a complete toss-up game. 50-50. It really depends on kind of who really was mentally prepared for this game getting off the bus. That's kind of what these games really matter. Ohio State has a very strong guard play. Ohio State has finished the season very, very, very strong. I think I am going to go with Ohio State to beat TCU. I think TCU can keep it really competitive, but Ohio State, at the end of the day, I think they're a stronger team. I think they're at a better spot entering the tournament than the Horned Frogs are. Number 5, St. John versus number 12, Iowa. I think St. John's wins this. There's always one 12v5 upset, but I don't think this is the 12v5 upset. I think St. John's, I've seen some other games, they're just too much of they're too good of a team to lose to Northern Iowa. I just don't see St. John's losing in the first round. They're going to have everything against them in the second and third round if they make it there, but in the first round should be pretty easy work for St. John's. Number 4, Kansas versus number 13, California Baptist. First time they're in the March Madness tournament, so got to give California Baptist a little bit of a shout out. But they're taking on the number 4 seed Kansas, one of the household names in each year's March Madness bracket. You got to get them out of the first round. Get them out of the first round against a very young California Baptist team who, obviously, first year in the bracket, they're one and done. They're not going to win a game in the March Madness bracket in their first year against a very historic 4 seed Kansas team. Next up, we have probably one of the crazier toss-up matches in the East is number 6 Louisville versus number 11 South Florida. For me, Louisville, mad team. I think a 6 seed is kind of a little too high for Louisville. I don't think Louisville is this incredible team that's going to make it past the second round. I think, okay, they might make the second round, but making it past the second round I think will be a little bit of a stretch for the Louisville Cardinals. Obviously, Louisville fans are probably going to think that they're a Sweet 16 type team because they've been able to win some games, but the ACC is very, very weak, and the game that they've played, I haven't really looked like too impressed about them. South Florida, another team where they're in a very weak conference, and they have some little situations, but in this match, I'm still going to go with Louisville, but that's going to be just such an ugly game, an ugly coin flip in the 6v11 matchup world. I do have Michigan State beating North Dakota State, North Dakota State winning the Summit, but Michigan State at the end of the day, Tom Izzo, you won't see him lose in the first round. UCLA versus UCF. UCF's a good team, but UCLA has been a pretty red-hot team towards the end of the season. I think they have a chance of making the Sweet 16 if they keep playing the way they have been over the last couple of weeks. And then UConn, Furman going with UConn. I don't think UConn is as good as they have been, but 15 Furman, I don't really see a 15v2 upset there. Going down to the South, Florida. Come on, it's the 1 seed Florida Gators. I at least have them moving on to the Elite Eight. Clemson versus Iowa. I think that this is a pretty good matchup, to say the least. I think it's going to be a pretty competitive matchup. Iowa's a really, really good team. but it's Clemson that I think will push through in a very competitive game. Vanderbilt versus McNeese. Gotta go with Vanderbilt. The Southland with McNeese is not very strong. Vanderbilt going to the SEC championship game. Way more valuable. Gotta go Vanderbilt there. Nebraska versus Troy. I don't trust Troy at the Sun Belt. Gotta go with Nebraska, a team that has looked a little iffy in their conference tournament. But hey, they're here as the 4 seed. They're going to be a higher seed against Vanderbilt, even though I think Vanderbilt will still be favored in that game over Nebraska, but we'll see. North Carolina versus VCU. I'm going to go with VCU. Now, a lot of people are going to be like,
oh, you probably you looked at someone's YouTube or whatever because North Carolina should win.
No, they shouldn't. North Carolina, this has been one of the worst years. Injuries and the inconsistencies the Tar Heels have had this year. The VCU Rams have actually looked good. I've seen 3 VCU Rams games this year, and they actually look like a pretty competitive team. Their offense is functional. I think if they play just somewhat the way they have been playing throughout the regular season, they can beat North Carolina. They're in a very weak conference, and they didn't do that good as a 6 seed. This is not the strongest North Carolina Tar Heels team. VCU, this is the 11v6 upset that I'm expecting in the first round. Illinois versus Penn. Penn making it on the Ivy. Illinois at the 3 seed. Can't really see them losing the first round. St. Mary's for A&M. I'm an A&M fan. You got to get A&M out of the first round. Move on to St. Mary. A&M is usually always a second round team, and they typically lose the second round, but they always get out of the first round no matter what. And then Houston, Idaho. Houston, the Vandals. They're not very good. Give me the Cougars. Arizona being Long Island is pretty much a cookie-cutter matchup. Villanova versus Utah State. This is a good matchup, but Utah State towards the end of the season in their conference tournament, they've looked really, really good. Villanova, I'm not a big fan of this year. Got to go with Utah State. Wisconsin, High Point, Wisconsin, they've also looked really, really good towards the end of the season. Arkansas, Hawaii. Arkansas making the SEC championship game. Hawaii, while they did win their conference tournament, they're in a very weak conference. Arkansas, I can see this being somewhat of a pretty competitive game. Give me Arkansas. BYU, give me them to win that. I do think North Carolina State University does beat Texas in the first 4, but then BYU comes out here as a 6 seed, move on to the next round. Gonzaga beating Kennesaw State. That should probably be a pretty big blowout. Miami versus Missouri. I'm going to go with Missouri coming out of the SEC, a stronger conference, a stronger team than Miami out of the ACC. And then I do have Purdue beating Queens. I mean, that's probably a very no-brainer pick. Then we have Michigan, obviously the 1 seed coming out of there. I do have St. Louis beating Georgia. Georgia, I think, have a very good shot of beating St. Louis. But St. Louis, man, they're a team as a 9 seed. I mean, even 9 seed, like I always talk about, they're always upsets. I'm not always going to go with the 8 seeds. Sometimes you have to go with the 9 seeds. Usually they're 50-50 coin flip. And if I go with all 8 seeds, that's statistically probably not going to happen. So I got to go for 1-9 seed. And I trust St. Louis in that 9v8 somewhat upset over Georgia. Tech versus Akron. I'm going to go with Texas Tech. A lot of people have Akron beating Tech. Akron coming out of the MAC. Statistically, they're a very dominant team, but I think Tech is too good of a team to not at least make the second round, even though this has been Texas Tech, one of their lower seasons. Alabama beat Hofstra. Easy. Tennessee, Virginia. Kentucky versus Santa Clara is actually a pretty interesting 7v10 matchup. Could be an upset, but I think Kentucky, they've done pretty good in the SEC. They did pretty good in the early rounds of the tournament. So give me Kentucky, and then Iowa State beating Tennessee State there. Moving on to the second round, we have Duke versus Ohio State. Give me Duke. Obviously, like I said, Duke is making my Final Four, so we're just going to keep on chugging with Duke. We have number 5, St. John versus number 4, Kansas. I am going to go with St. John's. I'm going with St. John's. I love Kansas, but dude, St. John's, I don't know what it is. St. John's for me has always been a team where it's like they can be streaky, man. They can get streaky. They can get hot at the right time, and who knows? St. John's can really step up the heat. They have a really good offense. They can put a lot of points. Kansas, they can easily win this game, but I mean, 5v4 matchups are a complete toss-up, man. Louisville versus Michigan. I'll go with Michigan State. I will go with Michigan State. It's Tom Izzo. Michigan State, another Sweet 16. Usually had the Sweet 16 collapse, but Michigan State there. And then UCLA versus UConn. I am going to go with UCLA on the 7v2 upset because I don't trust UConn this year at all. Florida winning that game. Vanderbilt winning that game. Obviously, Florida, the 1 seed. They're at least going to make the Elite 8 as the 1 seed. Vanderbilt and Nebraska. Nebraska, they did not look very good in their conference tournament. Vanderbilt obviously making the SEC tournament. Going to get a lot more value. Going to be a little bit more statistically favorites in that game. VCU versus Illinois, the 3 seed, got to go with them, and I think Houston's going to dismantle Texas A&M there. So a 1, 3, 2, 5 seeds there in the South. In the Midwest, we're going to move up to the West. My apologies. We have Arizona going to be Utah State as the 1 seed. Easy work. Wisconsin versus Arkansas. I'm actually going to go with Arkansas as the 4 seed, making it to the Sweet 16. They made the SEC championship game. I think they're a really pretty good team. BYU Gonzaga. I think this will be an unbelievable matchup. Probably one of the better matchups in the West. But I'm going to go with Gonzaga with the win. They're always somewhere in the Sweet 16 every year. Missouri versus Purdue. I'm going to go with Purdue, even though I think Missouri has a potential 10v2 upset there. Michigan beating St. Louis. I do have Alabama beating Texas Tech. Even if it's Alabama-Akron, Alabama has a very, very easy trip to the Sweet 16 this year. Tennessee versus Virginia. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I love Tennessee. They're always a good program in basketball. Their checkered uniforms are always crazy. They're always good. And then I do have Iowa State beating Kentucky. Moving on, we have Duke, Arizona. I mean, obviously making it to the Elite Eight. Why not? As a 2-1 seeds, it's just very cookie cutter to, choose them there. Michigan versus UCLA. I'm going to go with UCLA as the 7 seed because I don't want to have 1-2 seed, like the 1 and 2 seeds in each. So UCLA, I think, is the strongest non-2, 3, 4 seed in each of the respective sides of the bracket. Arizona, they're going to be playing Purdue as a 1-2. Florida and Houston there. And then I have Michigan and Iowa State. They're 1-2, 1-2. Those are just the most dominant teams at each of their respective sides of the bracket. So there's that. Duke versus UCLA. I'm going to go with Duke. I can't have a 7 seed go to the Final Four. I just don't really feel like that this is the year, especially against Duke. Arizona being Purdue. And then here, I am going to go with Iowa State. People might say this is the upset, but Iowa State has been playing phenomenal basketball this year. And then I'm going to go with Houston of the upset of Florida. Florida obviously kind of selling in the SEC championship, or not in the SEC championship, but in the overall SEC tournament, Florida did sell, so I'm not really too confident in them as Houston. They've been really, really good, especially when it comes to March Madness over the past couple of years. They've been looking really, really, really good, but I still think Duke ends up moving on. I still think Arizona ends up moving on there, but I do think it's time for Arizona to win a national championship. I do think that this is their year, and I'm going to put like 172 points as total points scored in the championship game. But that is my overall March Madness bracket predictions. We did it all in a pretty decent amount of time, 12 minutes, nothing bad at all. But please comment down below, what do you guys think about my predictions? I think I did pretty good on my predictions. There's obviously a couple of toss-up games. You're not going to go 100%, but I like making this brackets because it kind of makes the watching experience more interesting because you actually put a prediction on the game and you're trying to make this perfect bracket and try and get some money, even though I've never gotten anything over like 85%, 80% correct. I've usually been like 70% correct on all matches throughout March Madness, but hopefully this year we can do pretty good. But yeah, that's my overall March Madness bracket. So please let me know how I did, and also let me know who you have in the Final Four and who you have in the national title. Now I will be doing this for the girls. That video will be coming up pretty soon as well. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your night. Peace.